The sun shone brightly over Azura Bay Resort, making the white buildings gleam against the clear blue sky. It was the kind of place where the rich and famous came to escape, where staff wore crisp uniforms and guests dressed in designer clothes. Maya Chen walked slowly up the palm-lined path leading to the main building. She wasn't dressed like the other guests. Her simple linen shirt and pants were clean but clearly not expensive. Her backpack, faded from years of use, hung over one shoulder. But she walked with quiet confidence, taking in the beautiful gardens with a small smile on her face. This is perfect, she thought. Wei will be so surprised. The glass doors of the resort slid open, letting out a blast of cool air. Maya stepped into the grand lobby with its marble floors and giant flower arrangements. A few well-dressed guests turned to look at her, then quickly looked away. One woman in large sunglasses whispered something to her husband. Maya didn't notice. She was too busy remembering the last time she'd been here, 5 years ago, when she and Wei had met by chance at the beach bar. Back then, she'd been on a budget trip with friends and had wandered into the resort area by mistake. Wei had been sitting alone, watching the sunset. He wasn't flashy like the other guests, just a quiet man in simple clothes with kind eyes. Now, after 5 years of marriage, Maya had a special reason to bring them back to where it all began. She approached the front desk, where a young man named Blake Thompson stood straight-backed in his blue uniform. His smile disappeared when he saw her. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice cool. "Yes, I have a reservation," Maya said. "Under Chen. Maya Chen." Blake tapped at his computer screen, then frowned. "I don't see any reservation under that name." Maya pulled out her phone and showed him the confirmation email. "I booked it 3 weeks ago. Look, here's the confirmation number." Blake barely glanced at her phone. "Our system shows no record of this booking. Perhaps you've confused us with another resort." "No, I'm certain it's this one," Maya insisted politely. "Can you check again, please?" More guests were coming into the lobby now. Blake looked uncomfortable, his eyes darting to the wealthy newcomers, then back to Maya with her simple clothes and old backpack. "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked," he said firmly. "There must have been a mistake." "But I have confirmation," Maya said, still calm. "I specifically booked this resort because—" "Miss, please lower your voice," Blake interrupted, though Maya hadn't raised her voice at all. "Mrs. Chen," she corrected gently, and I wasn't shouting. By now, 2 security guards had appeared nearby, pretending to be adjusting plants but clearly watching the situation. "Look," Blake said, leaning forward and speaking quietly, "this is an exclusive resort. Our rooms start at $2,000 per night. Perhaps there's been some confusion." Maya understood what he was really saying. She wasn't dressed right. She didn't look rich enough. The weight of his judgment hung in the air between them. "Money isn't the issue," she said softly. "I just need you to honor my reservation." Blake straightened up. "I've told you there is no reservation. Now, if you don't leave, I'll have to ask security to escort you out." Maya stood her ground for a moment longer, dignity in every line of her body. "This is wrong," she said simply. Blake signaled to the security guards, who came over immediately. "Please escort this woman off the property," he said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "She's disturbing our guests." The security guards didn't grab her, but stood close on either side, making it clear she had no choice. Maya held her head high as she walked back through the lobby, past the staring guests and whispering staff. Outside in the warm air again, one of the guards said, "The public beach is that way," pointing to a path that led around the resort's fence. Maya thanked him quietly and started walking. Only when she was alone did she let herself feel the sting of being treated like she didn't belong. She reached the public beach, sat down on the sand, and pulled out her phone. She wasn't angry, just sad that people could be so quick to judge based on appearances. She dialed a number and waited. When the call connected, she said, "Wei." Something funny happened at the resort. Maya sat on the warm sand, her phone pressed to her ear as she waited for Wei to answer. The sound of waves crashed gently against the shore while children played nearby, their laughter floating on the breeze. From where she sat, she could still see the towering white buildings of Azura Bay Resorts standing tall and exclusive behind its fancy fence. "Wei, something funny happened at the resort," she said when he answered, trying to keep her voice light. Maya, what's wrong? Wei could always tell when something was bothering her, even over the phone. She sighed and told him everything, how the resort staff had claimed her reservation didn't exist, how the manager had looked at her simple clothes with judgment in his eyes, and how security had walked her out like she was causing trouble. I showed them the confirmation email and everything, she said, but they wouldn't even look at it properly. Wei was quiet for a moment. Maya could picture him sitting in his office, frowning slightly the way he did when he was thinking hard. Despite owning one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Wei Chen preferred to keep a low profile. He dressed simply, avoided photographers, and rarely gave interviews. Most people had no idea what the founder of quantum technologies even looked like. Are you okay? He finally asked, his voice gentle. I'm fine, Maya said, drawing patterns in the sand with her finger. Just embarrassed, I guess, and disappointed. I wanted to surprise you. Surprise me? Maya smiled, remembering why she planned this trip in the first place. I was going to tell you in person at the place where we first met. But I guess I'll tell you now. She took a deep breath. Why, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. There was silence on the other end of the line, then a sound that might have been a gasp or a laugh. Really? Wei's voice was full of wonder. You're sure? Yes, Maya said, her smile growing wider. 6 weeks along. I found out last week. That's amazing, Wei said, and Maya could hear the emotion in his voice. The best news. Stay right there, okay? I'll handle this. What do you mean? Handle what? I'm not far away, Wei said, and there was something new in his voice now, determination. I was planning to join you tomorrow anyway, as a surprise. But I'm changing my plans. Stay on that beach. I'll be there in 2 hours. 2 hours? But how? Trust me, Wei said. And Maya? I love you. Both of you. The call ended, and Maya sat staring at her phone, wondering what her husband was planning. Unlike many wealthy businessmen, Wei didn't throw his money or power around. He was kind and humble, traits that had first drawn Maya to him. But she had also seen him stand firm when it mattered. Maya watched a family playing nearby, a mother and father building a sandcastle with their little girl. The child squealed with delight as waves came close to their creation, and her parents laughed along with her. Maya placed a hand on her stomach, thinking about the life growing inside her. Soon they would be a family of 3 too. Time passed slowly as Maya waited. She walked along the shoreline, collecting pretty shells and thinking about the future. She bought a cold drink from a beach vendor who smiled warmly at her, such a contrast to how she'd been treated at the resort. The man even offered her a spot under his beach umbrella when he noticed her sitting in the sun. Thank you, Maya said, accepting his kindness with genuine gratitude. No problem, the vendor said with a friendly nod. Everyone's welcome on this beach. Nearly 2 hours had passed when Maya noticed people pointing out to sea. She followed their gaze and saw what had caught their attention. Coming into the bay was a sleek, massive yacht, easily one of the largest vessels Maya had ever seen. It moved gracefully through the water, its white surface gleaming in the sunlight. As it drew closer, Maya could make out the name painted in elegant gold letters on the hull, Maya's Dream. Her heart skipped a beat. She knew exactly who was on that yacht. Back at the Azura Bay Resort, word of the morning's incident had already spread through the staff. The young waiter Raj was wiping down tables at the beachfront restaurant when he overheard 2 housekeepers talking. Did you see what happened in the lobby? One asked. Some woman got kicked out. What for? The other asked, folding napkins into perfect triangles. Blake said she was trying to sneak in. Didn't look like our kind of guest, if you know what I mean. Reg frowned as he moved to another table. He'd been near the front desk when it happened and had seen the whole thing. The woman hadn't been making trouble at all. She'd been polite, even when Blake had treated her badly. And she'd definitely shown him something on her phone, probably a reservation confirmation, just like she'd said. In the manager's office, Blake Thompson was feeling pretty good about himself. He straightened his tie as he looked out the window at the perfect view of the bay. He protected the resort's exclusive atmosphere, which was exactly what the owner paid him to do. Guests paying thousands of dollars a night didn't want to share space with just anyone. His phone rang, interrupting his self-congratulation. He checked the screen and immediately straightened up. It was Mr. Patel, the resort owner. "Sir, what a pleasant surprise," Blake said, trying to sound confident. "Blake," Mr. Patel's voice was unusually serious. "I just received a very disturbing call about an incident at the resort this morning." Blake's smile faded. An incident? Something about a guest named Maya Chen being denied entry and escorted out by security. What happened? Blake cleared his throat. Yes. That wasn't a guest, sir. Just someone trying to get in claiming she had a reservation. I checked the system myself. There was nothing under that name. She was quite persistent, so I had to ask security to escort her out." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Did you actually look at her confirmation?" Mr. Patel finally asked. "Well, she showed me something on her phone, but it was clearly some kind of mistake." "And what made you think it was a mistake?" Mr. Patel's voice had an edge to it now. Blake hesitated. "Well, she didn't really look like our usual clientele." As soon as the words left his mouth, he knew he'd said the wrong thing. "Are you telling me," Mr. Patel said slowly, "that you judged a guest based on her appearance?" "No, I mean, not exactly. She was wearing very casual clothes, carrying an old backpack. I was just trying to maintain our standards." "Do you have any idea who her husband is?" Mr. Patel interrupted. Blake felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "Her husband? Chen Wei, the founder of quantum technologies, one of the richest men in the world." Blake's mouth went dry. Everyone in the business world knew about Chen Wei, even if few people knew what he looked like. The man was famously private, but his company was worth billions. I had no idea," Blake stammered. Clearly, Mr. Patel said coldly, "I just got off the phone with him. He's not happy, Blake, not happy at all." Through the window, Blake noticed people pointing at something in the bay. He squinted and saw a massive yacht approaching, easily the largest vessel he'd ever seen in these waters. "Mr. Patel, what should I do?" "I'm flying in by helicopter. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Until then, don't make things worse." The call ended abruptly. Blake sank into his chair, his mind racing. How could he have known? The woman had been so ordinary. No jewelry, no designer clothes, nothing to indicate she was connected to someone important. In the staff break room, Rage was telling his friend Lily what he'd witnessed. She wasn't causing any trouble, he said. Blake didn't even properly check her reservation. Lily shook her head. "That's not right. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect." "I know," Rage agreed. And she was so dignified about it too. Didn't yell or make a scene. Their conversation was interrupted when another staff member burst in. "Hey, come see this. There's a huge yacht coming into the bay. They say it belongs to some billionaire." Everyone rushed to the windows, pushing for a better view. The yacht was indeed impressive, gleaming white against the blue water. "Wow," Lily whispered. "I wonder who it belongs to." Raj shrugged. "Probably just another rich person who'll be treated like royalty while the rest of us are invisible." Little did they know how connected this yacht was to the morning's events, or how it was about to change everything at Azura Bay Resort. The massive yacht named Maya's Dream slowed as it approached the bay. Guests at Azura Bay Resort had abandoned their drinks and meals to gather at the railings, phones out to capture photos of the unexpected sight. The vessel was truly impressive, gleaming white with 3 decks and gold accents that sparkled in the sunlight. On the public beach, Maya stood up, brushing sand from her simple clothes. The beach vendor who had shared his umbrella with her whistled in admiration. "Wow, that's something, isn't it?" he said. "Wonder who it belongs to." Maya just smiled and kept her eyes on the yacht. A small boat was being lowered from its side, a tender that would bring passengers to shore. Back at the resort, Blake Thompson was in a panic. He'd rushed out of his office to the beachfront, where resort guests were clustering together, pointing and speculating about the yacht. "I heard it belongs to some tech billionaire," one woman was saying. "Must be nice," her husband replied. "Look at the size of that thing." Blake's phone buzzed with a message from the front desk. Mr. Patel's helicopter landing in 10 minutes. He tugged at his collar, feeling sweat forming despite the air conditioning. Everything was happening too fast. At the staff entrance, Raj was taking his break early, standing with other curious employees watching the yacht. Never seen anything that big in the bay before, one of the security guards commented, the same one who had escorted Maya out earlier. Me neither, Raj agreed. And look, they're sending a boat to shore. The tender was cutting smoothly through the water now, heading directly toward the public beach. Through the resort's telescopes, guests could see a man standing at the front of the small boat. He was dressed simply in a light blue shirt and khaki pants, not what most would expect from a yacht owner. On the beach, Maya took a deep breath as the tender approached. She hadn't seen Wei in 2 weeks because of his business trip, and her heart flooded with anticipation. The boat's engine quieted as it reached the shallows, and then Wei was jumping out, not even waiting for the boat to fully stop, splashing through ankle-deep water to reach her. Despite being worth billions, Chen Wei looked like any other man in his mid-30s. No flashy watch, no designer sunglasses, just a genuine smile that lit up his face when he saw his wife. He wrapped Maya in a tight hug, lifting her slightly off the ground. "I missed you," he said simply. "I missed you too," Maya replied, her eyes shining with happiness. "But you didn't have to bring the whole yacht just because of what happened." Wei set her down gently. "The yacht was already on its way. I was going to surprise you tomorrow." He touched her face softly. "But after what you told me about the baby, I couldn't wait. And I definitely couldn't let them treat my family like that." Maya placed her hand over his. "It's okay. Not everyone can see past appearances." "Well, they're about to learn," Wei said with quiet determination. "Ready to go back to the resort?" Maya nodded, and Wei took her hand. Together, they began walking toward Azura Bay Resort, followed by 2 crew members from the yacht. The beach vendor who had been kind to Maya watched them go, wondering about this strange turn of events. At the resort entrance, Blake was waiting nervously, having spotted the couple approaching. His face went pale as he recognized Maya. The woman he'd kicked out was now hand in hand with a man who had just arrived on the largest yacht in the bay. The math wasn't difficult. "Mrs. Chen," Blake said, his voice shaking slightly. "I believe there was a misunderstanding earlier." Wei stepped forward. "Are you the manager who refused my wife's reservation?" Blake swallowed hard. "There appears to have been a technical error, sir. We've located Mrs. Chen's reservation now." "Have you?" Wei's voice was calm but cold. "Strange how it appeared after my call to Mr. Patel." Resort guests had begun to gather, sensing something interesting was happening. Phones were discreetly raised to record the scene. Among the staff watching, Raj felt a surge of satisfaction seeing Blake squirm. The sound of helicopter blades chopping through the air announced another arrival. Mr. Patel was landing on the resort's helipad, rushing to handle the situation personally. "Perhaps we should discuss this inside," Blake suggested, looking around at the growing crowd. "No," Wei said firmly. "My wife was humiliated in public. We'll address this in public." He kept his voice level, but there was no mistaking the steel behind his words. Maya squeezed his hand, partly to support him and partly to remind him of her presence. Around them, the audience grew, everyone wondering what would happen next between the simple woman who had been kicked out and the resort that now knew it had made a terrible mistake. Mr. Patel hurried across the resort grounds, his normally calm face tight with worry. He was a man in his 50s who had built the Azura Bay Resort from nothing, turning it into one of the most exclusive destinations in the region. Now he feared that his manager's mistake might cost him everything. He reached the growing crowd just as Wei finished speaking. Guests were watching with interest, many recording on their phones. Staff members stood nervously at the edges, including Raj, who couldn't believe what was happening. "Mr. Chen," Mr. Patel said, stepping forward with his hand extended. "I'm Vikram Patel, the owner. Please accept my deepest apologies for this terrible situation." Wei shook his hand but didn't smile. "Your manager treated my wife like she didn't belong here because of how she was dressed." Blake stood nearby, his face red with embarrassment. "Sir, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain," Mr. Patel cut him off sharply. What happened was completely unacceptable. Maya watched the scene quietly. She had never enjoyed seeing her husband use his influence like this, but she understood why he felt he needed to. It wasn't about the money or even about her, it was about basic human dignity. "We had plans for this resort," Wei continued, his voice clear enough for everyone to hear. "My wife and I met here 5 years ago. We wanted to celebrate some special news at the place where our story began. Mr. Patel looked pained. Please, give us a chance to make this right. We have our finest suite ready for you both. Wei shook his head. That's not the point. This isn't about getting special treatment now that you know who I am. It's about how you treat all your guests, whether they arrive in expensive clothes or simple ones. The gathered crowd murmured in agreement. One woman in designer sunglasses whispered to her husband, "He's right, you know." We had more than just a stay planned, Wei continued. We were going to announce a new charitable foundation here, with a donation of $50 million to support education and healthcare in this community. Mr. Patel's eyes widened. Blake looked like he might faint. My company, Quantum Technologies, was also considering this location for our annual retreat, 300 employees for 2 weeks. Wei glanced at the yacht in the bay. But now we'll be finding another venue. A staff member pushed forward suddenly. It was Raj. "Sir," he said nervously, "I just wanted to say, I saw what happened this morning. Mrs. Chen was treated unfairly, and I wish I had spoken up." Maya looked at the young man with kind eyes. "Thank you for saying that now." Wei turned to the waiter. "What's your name?" "Raj Kumar, sir." "Why do you work here, Raj?" The young man stood straighter. "To save for culinary school. I want to be a chef one day." Wei nodded thoughtfully, then turned back to Mr. Patel. "The problem isn't your resort. The problem is how easily we judge people based on appearances." Blake stepped forward, finally finding his courage. "Mrs. Chen, Mr. Chen, I was wrong. Completely wrong. I made assumptions because of how you were dressed." He swallowed hard. "I've worked at luxury resorts for 10 years, and somewhere along the way, I started to think that worth was tied to wealth. I'm truly sorry." Maya studied the manager's face and saw genuine regret there. "Thank you for that apology." Wei wasn't as easily convinced. "Actions have consequences. My wife was humiliated today. What can we do to make this right?" Mr. Patel asked desperately. Wei looked at Maya, silently asking what she wanted to do. This had been her special trip after all. Maya thought for a moment, then stepped forward. "The resort itself is beautiful, and I'm sure most of your staff are kind people." She glanced at Raj with a smile. "What happened today isn't just about me. It's about a culture that judges people by their appearance." She placed a protective hand on her stomach, a gesture that wasn't lost on the watching crowd. "We're starting a family now, and we want our child to grow up in a world where people are valued for who they are, not what they wear or how much money they have." Wei took her hand, pride evident in his eyes. "My wife is right, so here's what we propose." The crowd leaned in, guests and staff alike, waiting to hear what would come next. None of them could have guessed how this confrontation would transform not just the resort, but the entire community around it. "So here's what we propose." Wei continued, his voice steady and clear. "Instead of staying at the resort, we'll remain on our yacht. But we'd like to invite Raj to join us for dinner tonight." Raj's eyes widened in surprise. "Me? But why?" "Because you showed integrity," Maya explained with a warm smile. "You spoke up about something unfair, even when it was difficult." Wei nodded. "As for our foundation announcement, we still want to help this community. But first, the resort needs to show it can change." Mr. Patel stepped forward eagerly. "We'll do anything. Just name it." "Start by creating a training program for all staff about treating people with respect, regardless of appearance or background," Wei said. "And I want Blake to lead it." Blake looked up in shock. "Me? But I'm the one who..." "Yes," Wei cut in. "You're the one who made the mistake. That makes you the perfect person to help others learn from it. If you're willing." Blake swallowed hard, then nodded. "I am. I truly want to make this right." "Good," Wei said. "Now, about the foundation. We still plan to establish it, but we'll be more selective about who receives the funding." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. News of the confrontation had spread throughout the resort, and even more guests and staff had gathered. "Raj," Maya said gently, "you mentioned you're saving for culinary school." The young waiter nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I've been saving for 3 years now, but tuition is expensive." Wei smiled for the first time since arriving. Then I'm pleased to announce the first grant from the Chen Foundation will be a full scholarship to the culinary school of your choice. Rage's mouth fell open. Are you serious? Completely, Wei confirmed. Your dreams shouldn't have to wait because of financial barriers. Tears filled Rage's eyes. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Several of Rage's co-workers patted him on the back, genuinely happy for him. One of them, a young woman who worked at the front desk, hesitantly raised her hand. Mr. Chen, does this mean you might consider other scholarships too? Many of us are working here to save for education. Wei exchanged a look with Maya, who nodded encouragingly. That's exactly what we had in mind, Wei said. Our foundation will focus on education and opportunity for hardworking young people. And yes, we'll consider applications from any staff member here. A ripple of excitement passed through the crowd. Mr. Patel stepped forward again, looking thoughtful. Mr. Chen, if I may, I'd like to add something to this. The resort will match any scholarship your foundation provides to our staff. And we'll start a program to hire culinary students as interns, with fair pay and genuine training. Wayne looked surprised but pleased. That's a generous offer. It's the least we can do, Mr. Patel said sincerely. Today has been eye-opening. We've focused so much on luxury that we forgot about humanity. As the crowd began to buzz with excitement, Maya touched Wei's arm. There's something else, she said quietly. Looking at Mr. Patel, she continued, we'd like to sponsor a community day once a month, where local residents can use the resort's beach and pool facilities at no charge. Some of the wealthy guests looked uncomfortable at this idea, but others nodded in approval. The locals work hard to make this paradise welcoming for tourists, Maya explained. They should get to enjoy it too. Mr. Patel hesitated only briefly before agreeing. Done. We'll start next weekend. As the crowd began to disperse, many people approached Maya and Wei to introduce themselves. Some apologized for not stepping in when Maya was being escorted out. Others simply wanted to congratulate them on the baby news, which hadn't escaped attention. Blake approached them last, still looking ashamed but also determined. I've already spoken to HR about starting the training program, he said. And I've been thinking maybe we should change our hiring practices too. Focus less on polished resumes and more on finding people with the right values. Wenny nodded approvingly. That sounds like a good start. As the sun began to set over the bay, casting golden light across the water, Maya and Wei walked hand in hand toward the dock where a boat waited to take them back to the yacht. Behind them, the resort was already buzzing with new energy and ideas. That went differently than I expected, Maya said softly. Wei squeezed her hand. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes. On the shoreline, Rage stood watching the couple depart, still in shock about his scholarship. Tomorrow would bring his first ever visit to a luxury yacht and the beginning of a whole new chapter in his life. 1 year had passed since that memorable day at Azura Bay Resort. The morning sun shone brightly over a new building on the shoreline, just a mile from the resort. A large sign read Chen Community Center in simple, elegant letters. Outside, a small crowd had gathered for the official opening ceremony. Maya stood by the entrance, her hand resting on her now visible baby bump. At 7 months pregnant, she glowed with happiness. Beside her, Wei adjusted the ribbon that stretched across the doorway, making sure it was perfect for the cutting ceremony. Nervous? Wei asked, noticing his wife's thoughtful expression. Not nervous, Maya replied with a smile. Just amazed at how much has changed in a year. And indeed, much had changed. After that day at the resort, Wei and Maya had purchased this property nearby. Instead of just creating a foundation that gave money, they wanted to build something lasting, a place that would genuinely help the local community for years to come. Mr. Patel arrived, looking very different from the anxious resort owner of a year ago. He seemed more relaxed now, dressed in a casual shirt rather than his usual formal suit. The big day is finally here, he said, shaking Wei's hand warmly. The whole town is talking about it. I hope we'll live up to the excitement, Maya said. More people began to arrive, local families, resort staff, and even some tourists who had heard about the center. Among them was Raj, no longer wearing a waiter's uniform. He was now in his second semester of culinary school, top of his class. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Chen, he called out, hurrying over. The catering team is all set up inside. Everything's ready. Thank you, Raj, Maya said. And please, I've told you 100 times, call me Maya. Raj grinned. Sorry, old habits. The students from my class are so excited to be catering this event. It's great practice for us. The culinary program was just one part of what the community center offered. There were also computer training classes, English language courses, small business workshops, and childcare services. The center had already helped dozens of locals find better jobs or start their own businesses. Blake Thompson arrived next, surprising many who knew the story from a year ago. After the incident, he had not only created the training program at the resort, but had eventually left his position to work at the community center full-time. He now ran the professional skills program, teaching people how to prepare for job interviews and workplace success. Everything looks perfect, he told Maya and Wei. The classrooms are ready for tours. At exactly 10 o'clock, Wei called for everyone's attention. The crowd, now numbering over 100 people, gathered around the entrance. Thank you all for coming today, he began. A year ago, something happened that could have ended badly. My wife was judged unfairly because of how she looked, not who she was. He glanced at Maya with love in his eyes. But sometimes life's worst moments can lead to the best changes. Maya stepped forward to continue. This center isn't just about education or job training. It's about seeing people for who they truly are, their dreams, their potential, their hearts. She placed her hand on her stomach again. Our child will be born in 2 months, and we want them to grow up in a world where people are valued for what's inside, not what's on the surface. Mr. Patel spoke next, surprising everyone with his announcement. The resort has changed too. We've hired 15 graduates from the center's program so far, and our monthly community days have been so successful that we're now doing them weekly. He smiled at Maya. It was the best suggestion anyone ever gave us. Finally, it was time for the ribbon cutting. Maya and Wei handed the large ceremonial scissors to Raj and the young woman from the resort's front desk, now the center's administrative manager. You two should do the honors, Wei said. You represent exactly what this place is about, people with dreams working hard to make them come true. As the ribbon was cut, the crowd cheered and applauded. People began to enter the building, excited to see all it had to offer. Maya and Wei stood back, watching the flow of happy faces. An elderly local woman stopped to speak with them. You know, she said, her eyes twinkling, when I heard that some billionaire's wife got kicked out of that fancy resort, I never imagined it would lead to all this goodness. She patted Maya's hand. Sometimes the best things come from places you'd never expect. As the woman moved on, Wei put his arm around Maya's shoulders. She's right, you know. Maya nodded, leaning against him. From a mistake to a miracle. Behind them, the center buzzed with life and possibility, proof that sometimes being judged by appearances could lead to something beautiful if you had the courage to turn hurt into hope.